Welcome guys. In this video you will learn how you can automate and create the amortization table directly in Excel without changing any formula. You will simply gonna input the criteria and all the tables gonna populate itself. You just change your term and it's gonna create itself. So all you're gonna learn in this video. So if you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe now and hit the bell icon so you keep getting updates of all my upcoming new videos. Let's get started. Okay, so let's start the development. In order to prepare the amortization table, I will require some input. Okay, so I will gonna define those inputs here. First of all, I would need the original principal. Let's assume in my case I am taking 500,000 as my original principal which I want to acquire from the bank. In order to make it currency, you can go on home tab and click on currency here, right? So it has become currency. Then I need to define, okay, for how many years I want to get this loan. For example, I want to get this loan for 30 years which I will pay back within 30 years of period, right? So I define 30 years. This is my loan term. How much annual interest rate I'm gonna pay? So the annual interest rate which I agree with my bank is 13%. It can be any interest rate. Okay. Frequency. Basically it's a frequency in a year, right? So this agreement can be monthly, this agreement can be semi-annual, or this agreement can be annual. Okay, so let's make a drop down here. You can make that drop down by going on data sheet. Then you click on the data validation. Here you will select the list, and here you will simply type monthly, semi-annual, comma, and annual. Press OK, enter. Now you are able to choose the monthly, semi-annual, and the annual, right? Okay. In a separate sheet, I can call it a support sheet. So I can call it monthly, monthly, semi-annual, and annual. There are 12 periods in monthly, there are 2 periods in semi-annual, and if you are paying annually, then you have to pay only one time in a year, right? So I'm simply gonna here number of periods in a year. So put a simply VLOOKUP formula, which here you're gonna select the frequency in a year, which is annual. Press comma, table array. The table array is this one, right? You need to freeze that by pressing F4. Then you press comma. It is asking, okay, the column index number, which is 2. Press comma and then 0, bracket close, and enter. Okay, so the number of period in a year is 1. So if your frequency is semi-annual, it's gonna be 2 because you're gonna pay twice in a year. And if it's a monthly, you're gonna pay 12 times in a year, right? So that's how your settlement with the bank is. So let's assume that my settlement with the bank is semi-annual, right? So how many payments I need to pay means in throughout the 30 years of period, how many times I'm gonna go back to the bank and paying them the installment. So the number of total installment are basically the 30 into the number of periods in a year. So there are 60 installment in 30 years. So if I am paying a monthly, there are 360 installment every month I have to pay. And if I am paying annually, there are only 30 installment for 30 years, right? So what is your periodic payment? I can also call it what is your installment payment, right? So we can say, okay, so for in order to calculate the installment, we will be using the formula which is PMT, payment, right? PMT. If you read that, what it say, calculate the payment for a loan based on the constant payment and the constant interest rate, right? So you will open the bracket. Now it's asking for a rate. Okay, what is your rate? So my annual interest rate is this, right? Freeze that. And if I am paying twice in a month, let's say it's a semi-annually, or if I am paying a 12 time in a month, in a year, then it's gonna be 12. So I will divide this interest rate by my number of periods in, or you can call the number of installment in a year, right? and you freeze that also. By pressing comma, now you have to input the number of period. There are total number of periods are 30. You will freeze that. Okay, what is your present value? So this is your present value. Okay, you will always type your present value with a minus sign, right? And then you will close the bracket and enter. Okay, so you have to pay 66,705 USD dollar every year to pay back your 500,000 in 30 years. So if I change the frequency to semi-annually, then your installment is 33,000 for 6 months. And if you are paying monthly, then your installment is $5,000 for every month, right? So now you just calculated your periodic payments. After calculating your periodic payments, I need to input the zero in your schedule. Zero means today. So today you have to pay no payments and you will just get the payment, which is the 500,000. So your balance today is 500,000, and the next period or the next year or the next month or then after 6 months, whichever your frequency is, you are going to make a payment, right? So let's say on the first period, it can be after 6 months, it can be annual, it can be monthly, right? So in your next period, you are going to make a payment. So how much money you gonna pay? You're gonna pay this installment, right? So you can simply freeze that. Okay, let's make it a simple currency with zero decimal. Okay, so this is the money you are going to pay for your next period. Then in this period, there are two factors which are included. One is interest and other is principal. So I need to break down, okay, how much interest I am going to pay and how much principal I'm going to settle in this total period, in this total payment. So in order to calculate my interest for the first period, I will use IPMT. IPMT formula returns the interest payment for a given period. So my rate is what? My rate is this divided by the number of period in a year, which is this, right? Okay, what is my period? So my current period is this. I will simply freeze the B8. And what is, how many number of periods are there? So there are total 360 periods. Okay, how much loan did I taken? I have taken this loan, right? And I will close the bracket and enter. Okay, so out of this money gonna be my interest payment. For the principal, you can simply take the difference, right? As simple as that. But if you don't want to use this simple calculation, there is a formula as well which I want you to learn as well, which is PPMT. The PPMT returns the payment on the principal on a given period. So whatever payment you are making, what part of this payment is the principal? In order to calculate that, you will use the formula PPMT. You will open the bracket, and here you will put your interest rate, which is 13%, which I freeze that, divided by the number of period. I will freeze that as so. Okay, comma, which period is that? This is the first period. I will freeze the column B. Okay, number of periods, there are 360 number of periods. And what is the present value? So I have taken with the minus sign 500,000 and freeze that and close the bracket. So you can see this is the same number which I calculated by taking the difference of these two numbers, which was 140, right? Let me freeze that as well. Okay, good. So if I sum these two numbers, this and this, you can see that both of these numbers are same, right? So your payment are basically your interest and principal. So this was your previous balance, right? And you just settle the principal of 114. So your balance is 499,000, right? Rest were went into the payments, into the interest. So you can simply make it a currency with a zero decimal and make it a right side. Okay, so after completing this, we will further enhance this formula. So in order to avoid the errors when our periods are complete, so I will simply say that if this operation, basically this decimal plus 1, if I will take into the parenthesis and say if this is less than equal to my total number of periods, then it's fine, we can do this operation, this plus 1, right? Otherwise make it blank, right, and enter. And one more, if I can say that if the above one is blank, then make it blank, otherwise use this if function. That's okay. So you can see I can keep putting it down and it's keep going, but if I change it to my annual, and you can see there are 30 periods, so if I go further down, so it is not going beyond 30, right? So if I change it to the 10 periods, it's not going beyond 10, right? So it's very clear and efficient. uh, in order to improve this one, basically I will say that if this is not equals to blank, then simply use this formula, otherwise blank, right? This one again I will do the same thing. If this is not equals to blank, then do this operation, otherwise make it blank. Similarly this one, if this is not equals to blank, then do this operation, otherwise make it blank. And here as well, if this is not equals to blank, then do this operation, otherwise make it blank. So I can just copy it and put it down, and you can see my amortization table has become 0. So I can simply copy it and put in into an enough number my formulas. So I just go to the enough rows and I just paste it. Okay, and now you can see that this is completely automate. I change it to the 30, the table has increased and make it 0, right? If I change it to the 5 years, see, reduce without showing any error, even though the formulas are there, but it is not showing any error because we control it through the if formulas, right? So if I make it to the 5 period semi-annual, then the total payments are 10, and you can see this has become 0. So you have to pay every year this sum of money to settle your balance in 5 years by making payment in every 6 months, right? And if you're making in a monthly, then your period of course gonna be larger, 60 periods, right? So I hope that you will like it. If you like it, please subscribe it and let me know in comments if you have any question. Thank you so much and have a nice day.